And also, I'm very thankful to have Charlene, who is the chair from the school district, joining us for our announcement today, which is an important milestone that we're celebrating. And it's interesting because before we used to celebrate all of our childcare announcements in beautiful childcare settings with a lot of kids and doing activities. Today, we're in a press gallery, which is kind of a different setting, but still, we're really happy to say that our government, even though a lot of things have changed during this pandemic, but our government's commitment to invest in childcare and early learning has not changed. As a mother of a young child, I know how families really have been struggling with childcare and their childcare needs for many, many years. I remember how I struggled to find infant toddler care, and now, even though my son is in kindergarten going into grade 1, I struggle to find care during the summer break. So some of you may have seen me actually walking with my son near the legislature and having lunch in the back of the building, because as parents, we are all doing our best trying to make the best decision possible for our family and children, and also trying to balance our childcare needs with our work obligations. And that is why our government continues to be committed, despite this global pandemic, that we're committed to invest in early learning and care. And we're happy to share that since July 2018, that we have funded and supported the creation of almost 16,800 spaces. And just during the past few months, we have funded over 3,000 spaces in 34 communities, including 406 spaces at 10 schools in Nanaimo and Ladysmith in the School District 68 area. So that is why we're really happy to have the board chair, Charlene, to be able to share a few words with us today. And those spaces, and especially if you think about how we can create spaces on public grounds, on school district grounds, so parents can drop off their older kids at the school and also dropping off their younger kids at the childcare centers, or having before and after school care to make sure they don't have to rush to pick up and drop off their kids due to their work hours. That just really brings the peace of mind to our parents, and it also really supports our young children to make sure that they are familiar with the school environment and the community, so they can have a better transition into the K-12 system. And really, I cannot thank all the partners that we have enough, like school district, municipalities, indigenous communities, and also private childcare providers that we've worked together to really support the childcare community. And it is partnerships like this that have supported our government's goal to make sure we continue to create more spaces. And we have been funding an average of 700 spaces per month. And that is the fastest space creation in BC's history. Again, thanks to all the partnerships that we have. And our Childcare BC plan is not just about spaces. It is really a comprehensive plan to make sure we can build an inclusive, affordable, quality early learning and care system for all families in BC, that we have been supporting affordability measures to make sure parents can afford their childcare services, which has skyrocketed for many, many years. But currently, many parents are saving up to $1,600 per month, and some of the parents, including 32,000 parents, are now paying $10 a day childcare, which is a significant achievement that we have made to make sure that they can have the support from the government to support their childcare needs. We also want to thank all the educators who have been working so hard, especially during this pandemic, that you are really the workforce behind the workforce. Your work has supported so many essential services workers. You've done a tremendous job of making sure workers who need to work and support the efforts to provide support during this pandemic can go back to work. So I want to thank all the educators, and we're committed to continue to provide wage enhancements, support for your training, education, and other measures to ensure we can support the childcare sector. And although this has been a really difficult time, and we know how childcare used to be a sector that was neglected for many years until we became government and started funding since 2017 and 18, that this pandemic has really highlighted that the childcare community is the backbone of our economy. It's a key building block for our recovery from the pandemic. It is going to support many parents to be able to return to work, and investing in childcare is really good for our children, for their early learning needs, and really good for our parents, community, and economy as a whole. So we'll continue to work hard to support the sector. Just like Premier said, that we have accomplished a lot, but we still have a lot of work to do. And thank you for your time today. Oh, my apologies again. And now I'm really happy to introduce the board chair from Nanaimo's School District 68, Charlene MacKay. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Chen, for that warm welcome. Greetings to Minister Chen, Emily Malcolmson, Parliamentary Secretary, Mitzi Dean, honored guests, and those watching from work and home. Squale. I'm happy to deliver greetings on behalf of the Nanaimo-Ladysmith Public School Board of Education from the beautiful, traditional, and unceded territory of the Nanaimo people. Today is a historic day for our community as the Ministries of State for Childcare and Education deliver on the funding for the creation of much-needed childcare in Nanaimo-Ladysmith and around the province of BC. This unique partnership is the answer to our province's ever-growing need for affordable childcare options and will see our district break ground on 10 projects, which translates into hundreds of spaces for families across the region. My sincerest thanks to Ministers Katrina, Chen and Rob Fleming and the province of BC for developing the Childcare BC New Spaces Fund. As a parent of school-age children, I understand firsthand how difficult it can be to find affordable and reputable childcare facilities in your own community. I would also like to thank our school trustees for their commitment to these initiatives, our district staff who have been working tirelessly on the grant submissions, and the engineers and architects who are already helped design potential space options for our schools. Haichka, thank you for realizing the demand and fulfilling a need asked for by parents and caregivers over many years. Now it's my pleasure to introduce my friend and local Nanaimo MLA, Sheila Malcolmson.
Thank you, Charlene. It's an honor to be here today on Algonquin territory, and a shout out back to my friends in Nanaimo territory. And thank you, Charlene MacKay, for your leadership, and to all of the elected trustees in Nanaimo-Ladysmith. We're lucky to be working together. So as the MLA for Nanaimo, I hear a lot from parents who haven't been able to return to work because they don't have childcare lined up. And families that have had to travel long distances in order to be able to drop kids off, pick kids up after school, and manage a work commitment at the same time. Lots of times in Nanaimo, knocking on doors would sort of stride up to the door would swing open, there would be a parent, usually a mother, with a kid on one hip, and she'd say, I know why you're here, I know what your government has done, we've got sometimes $900 more in our pockets, maybe even more each month because of the support that our government has given to families. You've made life more affordable. You've made it possible for me to go back to work. Now get out there and talk to more families. You know, just really seeing that visceral, immediate impact on people's lives, which is what our Premier, John Horgan, says he wants to do every day, just bounding out into the work to be able to change people's lives, not just with policy, but actually making material change. So we know how essential it is to have access to quality, licensed childcare close to home. And especially during the pandemic and in our recovery from the economic and social impacts of the pandemic, we know how especially important childcare is to building back BC. When our children thrive, we all thrive. And so I am especially proud to be part of a government that's investing so deeply in families, in women, and in children, and that we've reached this major milestone in such a short period of time. I'm also personally excited that 536 of these new childcare spaces are going to be in Nanaimo and Ladysmith, because I know that they'll make a really big difference for families in my area. School District 68 is a fantastic partner in so many important issues, public policy issues in our region, and especially today on the childcare front. I applaud and thank them for their leadership, and I can't wait to see new childcare centres open in 10 different schools through Nanaimo and Ladysmith. Adding childcare to school grounds is a real win-win. It gives kids a smoother transition into K-12, and it gives real convenience for parents. And I know from the Little Ferns childcare in School District 68 already, how it's really great for families keeping connected. And sometimes even mothers who have returned to finish their high school, for them to have childcare right on the grounds is really important as well. Our government has recently made changes to the School Act that make this kind of project easier. It makes it easier for the school boards to create and operate childcare facilities. And so, especially with School District 68 as a model, I hope that other school districts will step up in the same kind of way and be partners with our government and with Minister Chen on getting as much childcare available to families as soon as we can. Because we know that when we work together, we can create more and more new childcare spaces for families. It's critical to helping families, small business, and communities grow. And because the pandemic has challenged and changed our province in so many ways, we're doing everything we can to invest in people on the ground, to invest in businesses and communities so that families can get through this together and get through better. I am really excited. I'm thankful to Minister Chen for being at the lead for our government and manifesting all this new change on the ground. And I now welcome Minister Katrina Chen to return to the podium and answer questions from the media.
Thank you so much, Sheila. So we'll now take questions.
Thank you, Minister. As a reminder to everybody on the phone, please press star 1 to enter the queue. You are limited to one question and one follow-up. I would also ask that you please take your phones off mute. You will not be audible until I call your name. First question is from Lisa Usda, News 1130.
Hi, Minister. I know that licensed daycares have been able to operate because they have the space requirements, but I'm wondering what is going to happen when school starts for both those who have been bumped because their space might have been taken by an essential worker child, and what is going to be done for after-school care as kids return to school, especially if we need to go to a hybrid model where kids are only in class a couple days a week. What plans are being made to make sure that that care is in place?
Thank you so much for the question, Lisa. We understand that a lot of parents are asking those questions as well. So we've been working very closely with Ministry of Education and also Ministry of Health and Public Health to make sure that children can safely return to school and to childcare, and also making sure that we can continue to work closely with Ministry of Education on a plan to look after before and after school care and also other needs of care for our children. And we've been implementing an online matching service that has been working out really well. We've matched over, I believe, 5,700 families with young children to be able to get childcare, and most of them are essential. Vast majority of them actually are essential services workers, and the majority of them are actually healthcare workers. That we've been able to get them services to find childcare spaces near their work or near their home. And our temporary emergency funding has also been working really well to support providers to continue to maintain their operation, and also for close providers. We're actually the only jurisdiction in Canada to provide support to providers that are close to be able to come back and restart their services once they're ready to. So we are now seeing a lot of providers coming back in service, which is a really good sign. I think the preliminary numbers we have is about over 85% of providers are in temporary emergency funding that have already come back to open their centers. Maybe not at the full capacity, but we're seeing a growing number of parents returning to work and families using childcare. So to address the question about how about essential services workers who are currently using the spot, that I think we're going to continue to work with our local childcare resource referral centers. Some parents are sharing that they may still not be comfortable of coming back to childcare or school by September. So we'll work closely and thankfully for the work for the local childcare resource referral centers. We're going to continue with those matching services to make sure essential services workers and parents who need childcare will be able to find services. But it's important to note that this province has always had a shortage of childcare services. That has been a crisis for many, many years. We've started the work through Budget 2018 to be able to fund the fastest space creation, which is exactly what we're announcing today. So we are not slowing down to fund those spaces, but we know there's a shortage. And that is why, while our temporary emergency funding is supporting those spaces, the current spaces, we're continuing to build spaces to make sure we meet up with the demand. And we'll monitor the situation very closely.
Do you have a follow-up, Lisa?
I do. Regarding the funding, so the temporary emergency funding, as far as I understand, is supposed to run out at the end of August. Obviously, the pandemic's not going anywhere. So what's going to happen As that date nears, I know there are a lot of people anxious about what they're going to do.
So the temporary emergency funding so far has provided over $178 million to support childcare centers across the province, and over 90% of licensed providers have opted into the program, so they can get extra support to pay for their spaces that are currently impacted by the pandemic or not having full enrollment. And those funding has been significant to support those centers to stay in operation or be able to come back to service. Because we are looking at more enrollments coming back. Now we're seeing more parents coming back to work and more children enrolled in childcare centers. So we're expecting that hopefully most of the spaces will be filled by September, but we will continue to work with the sector. They will continue to get all the other support, and they have been through our fee reduction program, through our operating grant program, through affordable childcare benefit. The maintenance funding continues to be very popular among providers. So we're going to continue to work with the sector to monitor the situation, but we are expecting more parents who need childcare by September. And so once the enrollment is back, then the providers will have the financial resources, the parent fees, to be able to cover their cost.
Next question is from Richard Zussman, Global News.
Just to build off that a little bit, Katrina, in terms of new spaces, if kids are going back to school in a hybrid model, is there a commitment from the province to ensure there are even more additional part-time childcare spaces to help ease the pressure on parents who need to return to work, but only will be allowed to send their kids to school on a part-time basis?
I think, again, it's important to remember there's always been a shortage of childcare spaces in BC, and all types of shortage, part-time care, full-time care, infant toddler care, before and after school care. And our program has been as flexible as possible to ensure we can fund a variety of different type of spaces to serve parent needs, and we will continue to do that. And during the pandemic, I think it was very amazing to see how we've worked really well with school district, and I cannot thank the school district enough to step up, and Ministry of Education to support the needs of before and after school care, and sometimes part-time services that needed. That's supported by a lot of local organizations. We'll continue to find those opportunities. And one thing that I think we really learned from this pandemic is that, and which we've been talking about during the past few years, is that childcare is so crucial to our economy, to our community, and it's going to be so crucial during the process of our recovery. So we'll continue to focus on childcare, put that as our priority, because it is the workforce that we need behind the workforce that needs to go through this economic recovery phase. So we will be looking at all the opportunities, including part-time spaces and flexible ways to be able to fund childcare services, especially looking at school district on school grounds, so parents don't have to worry about before and after school care, and also at all the other opportunities that we may have. So thank you for the question.
Do you have a follow-up, Richard?
The last part. Yeah, I'm a little bit confused about the last part of what you just said there. If there's hybrid learning, which a majority of British Columbians support, what do you say to a parent, especially for kindergarten to grade 7, around will there be childcare spaces for when their kids are not in a classroom? Like you mentioned, would it be possible to use school facilities even though it's not their time to learn? I'm confused by that. And more specifically, what do you say to parents who are struggling with this idea that they will have to balance some sort of hybrid learning without a secure childcare space for their kid?
To be honest with you, I'm one of the parents. I'm looking for before and after school care, and also other opportunities for my son who's going to go into grade 1 as well. And I definitely know parent struggles. And like I said, there has been historically a shortage of childcare spaces and before and after school spaces in BC. One good thing to note, since we started our childcare plan in 2018 with a very comprehensive strategies, we have actually over 3 dozens of new strategies that's being rolled out to support affordability, quality, and accessibility when it comes to childcare services. One thing that we've done earlier this year, right before the state of emergency, was to we made an amendment, thanks to Minister Rob Fleming, to the School Act to make sure there's going to be more partnership opportunities between childcare sector and the school community. So currently, school district can legally operate childcare services after that amendment has been passed. We're also looking at licensing regulations. As we know, childcare, BC is the only province that has childcare broken up in so many different ministries. So licensing is one of them. That's under the Ministry of Health that we've been working very closely and thankfully with Minister Adrian Dix and his ministry to look at licensing requirement and how do we make it work better on school grounds. I know some of the licensing requirement is needed to ensure safety, health and safety of young children at childcare settings, but in the school setting, during K-12 hours, that the licensing works during those times, but before and after school care hours, the licensing becomes different. So we're looking at those gaps and challenges and making sure that we can make it more flexible and more opportunities for school district to be able to utilize their spaces. So those works has been ongoing during the past few years. We're thankful that we passed the School Act amendments to be able to start this work. So there's going to be more information to come in terms of how we can build that closer connection between childcare and K-12 education.
Next question is from Lisa Cordasco, CHLY.
Thank you. I'd like to get a few details about the actual announcement for Nanaimo. There were two numbers thrown out, 536 new spaces and 406. I'm wondering if they're all in Nanaimo, and also if those 406 spaces are before and after school care spaces, and when will they come online at the Chen school?
My understanding is the 406 spaces that are done at 10 schools in Nanaimo and Ladysmith by the School District 60A, and thanks to the school board for their important partnership. And the rest are spaces that are built and applications that we received from other providers. So that's why you have the two numbers. But I believe maybe Board Chair Charlene may have more information about the spaces that are being built on school grounds. Can we have Charlene?
Thank you. You are correct. We do have some other providers in our region that have also been able to submit some successful applications for funding, and so we'll see spaces in addition to the school district spaces that are being created. As far as the technical details around who we're going to be registering and who will be attending those childcare spaces, that is in the works, and we're continuing to work on those details as we work through the process of all of the technical details included with the builds as well. So more to come in the future.
Oh, would you like to speak?
So, as the MLA for Nanaimo, we've seen probably about 7 different, for just my riding of Nanaimo, so not including what's represented by Doug Routley or Michelle Stillwell. I think it's like 460 spaces created already with a whole range of not-for-profit and for-profit, but all licensed providers. So some of those are bundled into this press release, but the majority and the real focus and the new and most innovative part of the partnership is with the school district. And so that's where we're getting the really big number in today's announcement, over 400. And then the details, I guess now that we know this is going to go ahead, then the details of the before and after school care and hours of operation, we'll get those out as the building and the mechanical details get revealed.
Do you have a follow-up, Lisa?
Yes, thank you. In regards to funding those spaces at schools in the Nanaimo-Ladysmith district, will these be $10 a day spaces? And, is the province paying the capital cost of building these spaces or subsidizing, the operational cost of it?
So we pay for the capital cost of building those spaces. For public sector applications, we can pay for the full amount, so 100% of the cost, depending on the application. We do have operating grants that are available to support childcare providers, so that's a separate program that once the childcare is up and running and they are licensed, then they can apply through our childcare operating grant system to be able to get operating support. And they can also apply to become a center that joins our fee reduction program to reduce parent fee fees, and their parents can also apply for affordable childcare benefit. That actually brings $10 a day to many families. We have over 32,000 children and families paying $10 a day outside of the prototype site. So in terms of your question to the $10 a day, the prototype site, that's an initiative that we have with the federal government through federal funding to be able to fund spaces that are $10 a day pilot sites. We're learning from those experiences about how to build a universal block funding type of childcare system. And there's going to be a lot of learning that we can share in the coming months as we are going into the second year of rolling out the prototype site. But, including the prototype site and all of our other measures, that we do currently have about 32,000 children that are paying about $10 a day since we started the program. And at the same time, we have all the other measures that are supporting early childhood educators, providers, building spaces. It's a very comprehensive plan with over 3 dozens of new initiatives.
Do you have a follow-up, Sandy? No? Okay. We are moving on to Lisa Yuzda for a follow-up. Lisa, are you there? Sandy, are you there?
Sandy from CFAX. I am here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. We hear from a lot of parents that they're a little worried that some of the childcares have closed during COVID-19 and that they won't be reopening. Do we have any figures on that?
Well, the numbers we have is that about 90% of providers in the province have joined our temporary emergency funding program. And the purpose of temporary emergency funding is to provide support to providers. So, for example, a provider who's open to serve essential services workers during the pandemic, or other parents who now need to return to work, they got up to 75% of their operating fund covered to be able to operate, even though they have low enrollment and they have loss of parent fees. And a lot of providers have shared with us that this funding has really helped to save their business and save their operation to be able to continue to operate. We also provide support to closed providers that are, because the childcare community is so diverse, there's so many different reasons of why they may not be able to come back in operation. Maybe a smaller provider. I've heard a lot of stories of smaller family childcare centers that they have an elderly parent at home and they don't feel comfortable of opening their home and back in service. And there's other scenarios as well, including early childhood educators not being able to return to work. So we want to provide support, and we're the only jurisdiction in Canada to provide support to closed providers. So we pay up to 20% of their operating cost, so they can pay for their basic needs such as rent and hydro, and then they can come back in service when they're ready. The numbers we have right now does show that the vast majority of providers who are receiving temporary emergency funding, I think it's about 85% now or more, are open to services, and there's about 10 to 15% that are still closed. We're going to confirm those numbers. Normally there's a month and half delay to confirm those numbers, but currently we're seeing the vast majority of the providers are coming back in service, and we're happy to provide more statistics once we collect all those data and information from providers.
Do you have a follow-up, Sandy?
I do. If you're opening more daycares, are we training more people? Are we attracting them by paying them better?
That is a very good question. That's always been one of the biggest challenges that we have when we're building a universal system that we started in 2018. We are doing our best to fund space creations, and we can see we're well on track. The pandemic has not slowed us down. We continue to fund new spaces. We continue to make childcare affordable to make sure that parents can get relief from their childcare fees and get more support from the government. When it comes to early childhood educators, we know how this is a sector that has been neglected for years and years, that they have not been getting the support that they need. And that is why we also have over a dozen of initiatives, including wage enhancement, support to training and education, bursary programs to cover for almost all of their tuition fees, and ongoing support for early childhood educators who are already working in the field to make sure they can have professional development opportunities and other opportunities to get support from local childcare resource referral centers or connecting with their colleagues. So there has been a lot that we're working on, and during the pandemic we had continued to enroll out our second dollar of wage enhancement per hour. So now early childhood educators in BC, a lot of them are getting $2 an hour wage enhancement. We're going to continue to monitor how those wage support works and how do we continue to support the sector. But I cannot thank early early childhood educators enough for their very difficult job, especially during this pandemic, as they're the workforce behind the workforce. And we are continuing to roll out our strategies to make sure we can continue to support the sector.
Next question is from Carl Yoon, Nanaimo News Bulletin.
Thanks for taking my question, Minister. I just have I was looking for confirmation here of the 400, 500 spaces announced today. It includes announcements of 320 from earlier this year, correct?
Are you talking about the spaces in Nanaimo and Ladysmith?
Nanaimo, yes.
My understanding is the 406 spaces with the school district, that those are new spaces that we're creating. We do have other spaces that we created previously. I'm happy to get our ministry staff to send you a list of the numbers to confirm how many spaces was created before and how many new spaces we are announcing today. Today, basically, the announcement is about over 3,100 spaces that are created in 34 communities across BC during the past few months through our intake process. And then in total, since July 2018, we funded almost 16,800 spaces.
Do you have a follow-up, Carl?
Nope.
Great, thank you. And our last question is a follow-up from Lazy Euston News 1130.
Hi, Minister. I know that COVID is new and all of this is so challenging, and you're talking a lot about the grander 3-year plan, but I still have not heard where parents are going to put their children if there is hybrid learning. Are childcare centers and school spaces going to be opened for care for kids when they're not in classrooms? And for those parents who would need that additional care on the days when their kids were not in the classroom, how are they going to pay for that?
I just want to clarify. Sorry, I lost you a little bit there. Are you talking about how they're going to pay or how they're going to find spaces, or both? Sorry.
For both. If there's a hybrid model, which seems like it's going to be quite likely that is a possibility, if not right off the top, that we may have to move to that, leaving kids who can't care for themselves in school 2 days a week, so leaving parents have to deal with the other days of the week. So if childcare centers like the Cridge here in Victoria can take kids full-time during the day, how is that going to be paid for? And for the spaces that aren't in existence right now, are there plans to use gymnasiums or other places for these kids who can't go into the classroom because they're keeping social distance? And so there will be a two-day plan like we saw in June.
Yeah, so we'll continue to definitely work together with Ministry of Education and looking at opportunities for before and after school care or other type of care on school grounds to be able to support the needs of parents. And I think, it is important to note that we've always had a shortage of childcare spaces in this province. We're using the temporary emergency funding to try to support and do our best to support and maintain current spaces, and also encourage them to come back and up and running for families who need those services. And at the same time, we're creating new spaces, and we're going to continue to look for opportunities with school district to be able to look for opportunities on school grounds, and also other partners as well, including municipalities and Indigenous communities. We will definitely continue to work with the local childcare resource referral centers that have been doing an amazing job matching services. And I know we're getting more parents coming back to say, I really need to go back to my original spot that's currently used by a temporary, essential services worker. So the local CCRs, Childcare Resource Referral Centers, will continue to find those opportunities. And I also encourage parents to connect with the local Childcare Resource Referral Centers to look for available spots in our communities. And for example, from my community, I'm very lucky that I was able to get a spot for my son during the summertime as temporary support. And I understand that there may be some spots that are not being utilized and used at this moment, and it may be also the situation coming in September, although we are expecting more parents to go back to work. So the local childcare resource referral center would be a great place that people can go to look for opportunities in the community. We're going to continue to work with them to make sure we have reliable information and data, and working with providers to find those spots. And at the same time, we're not going to slow down on space creation. As we've mentioned, we're going to do our best. I know there's going to be more and more centers being opened in the coming months, and also including a lot of them on school grounds. So we'll do our best and continue to monitor the situation. And if you have parents who have a specific situation, feel free to connect with us. We're more than happy to work with the local childcare resource referral centers to find those opportunities for parents. But again, it is a system that has been broken for many years. We're glad that the work that we've done during the past past 2 years have provided some relief and spaces to parents who can utilize those spaces now. But we have a lot of more work to do to be able to provide opportunities for all families in BC.
That's all the time we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.